Welcome to the Million Gold Nuggets podcast, where four dynamic women unite to share transformative insights on mindset, manifestation, spirituality, and the invaluable gems of wisdom that can elevate your life. We are parents, entrepreneurs, and friends from diverse corners of North America, passionate about sharing the lessons we've learned and implemented on our own journeys. Each week, join Jennine, Leslie, Amber, and Nicole as we dive into heartfelt conversations that inspire and uplift, blending personal development strategies, manifestation, and practical wisdom. Whether you're aiming for success, seeking personal growth, or simply looking to fine-tune your mindset and energy, we've got the golden nuggets you need to turn your dreams into reality. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and prepare to soak up the insights that can spark your transformation. Together, let's forge the path to collective growth and expansion, because the journey to fulfillment is all about collecting those precious gold nuggets. Welcome to the show. I'm Nicole, your host for today. And in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the law of vibration. What is it? Why is it so powerful? And how we can use it in our life. But before we do that, I just want to say hello and welcome to my beautiful co-hosts. How is everybody?
Great.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to continue along this series of laws that we've been diving into. So the law of vibration, I'm going to give a little brief overview of what it is, and then we'll dive into some questions to kind of put things into perspective. So the law of vibration is a principle in metaphysics and spirituality that states everything in the universe is in constant motion and vibration, each with its own unique frequency. So here are the key points. 1, constant motion, which means everything, including solid objects, is in a state of vibration at the atomic level. 2, unique frequencies. Each object, thought, and emotion has a specific vibrational frequency. Higher frequencies are linked to spiritual energies, so think about positive thoughts, feelings, and emotions, while lower frequencies relate to denser physical energies, so think more negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Number 3, like attracts like, so similar vibrations attract each other, meaning our thoughts and emotions draw corresponding experiences into our lives. So if you're thinking positive emotions, feelings, thoughts, you're more likely to attract situations that are positive and uplifting. Number 4, changing vibrations. We can consciously alter our vibrational frequency through practices like meditation and positive thinking to align with our desired outcomes. And number 5, interconnectedness. All things are interconnected through their vibrations, affecting each other energetically, even if we can't see it. So this kind of gives a very broad and diverse overview of what the law of vibration is. So with your guys' understanding of what this law entails, how do our daily thoughts and emotions influence our vibrational frequency?
Don't all speak at once. Oh my gosh. For me, I think it's whatever train you take, right? So if I'm on the train going to a certain location, that's where I'm going to end up going, and I'm going to meet all the people on the train that are going in that same direction, right? So if I'm waking up and I'm like, my life is terrible and I have all these things to do and everything just happening to me, and I'm always late and I'm always tired and like whatever, right? If that's kind of what you're thinking, waking up in the morning, that's probably how your day is going to go. You know, you're going to hit every red light. So you'll end up being late, right? You'll meet other disgruntled people probably on the road, right? Because you're kind of reverberating that energy, right? So it's basically like choosing, you know, and I say this from past experience. That's how I lived my life, you know what I mean? But it's what do you want to think, and how do you want to vibrate? Because like, yes, the world is still going to go on around you, but if you're on the vibration of like you're excited for the day, and I woke up feeling relaxed and refreshed, and my life is amazing, and you know all these things, then most likely you're going to meet a different kind of people, right? You're going to meet the people that are waving at you. You're going to meet the people that are, you know, hi, how are you? You know, that kind of thing. You know, in the stores or what have you, right? Because that's the vibration that you're on. Um, so
Yeah,
Think
100%.
it's, yeah, like you're talking about like, so whatever emotion we're emitting, we're attracting that,
yeah.
right? Or if we're saying this is a really horrible day and everything's going wrong, then everything is going to continue to go wrong because we're
Mhm.
attracted to that vibration that's going on, because absolutely everything is vibrating. So, and we only attract what we're on the same level of the vibration as.
Yeah, and vibrations are palpable. They can
Mhm.
actually be felt. You know, not you can't see them, but you can actually feel them, and we give off those vibrations, you know, depending on our emotions and where we are um,
It's such a
that
good
day.
a really good example that we can feel them. Because haven't you
Yeah,
ever walked into a room and you could just feel the energy? It was like bursting with excitement, or it was like totally like anger, or it
Yeah.
was sadness. Like you can feel that before you even talk to anybody, and before you can even look at people's faces. You can
yeah,
feel that
yeah.
energy.
and
And
and and that connects with your intuition too, you know, but you can actually feel that, and you know, you might say that's your intuition. I felt that that was going on, but it's vibration. It starts with vibration.
mhm. And I know, like, when I hang around people that are super happy and super excited, that's what I feel. And when
Yeah,
I hang around people that are low vibing and they're not happy, that's how I feel. And I
brings
start
you down.
acting that way, right?
Yeah, yeah,
100%. It's infectious.
Yeah.
You know how they
yeah.
say laughter is infectious. Well, we hear
Mhm.
other things like negativity breeds negativity. And it's true, because the more that you surround yourself around certain vibrations and energies and feelings, the more you're going to feel that way. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, consistent and intentional thoughts and feelings help maintain a stable and elevated vibration.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So
My
I
husband
would
always,
I would say it's pretty important, if you're trying to manifest something, have something come into your life, that it's pretty important to be able to be on that vibration, that, or the same frequency that that actual thing is, right?
Yeah,
Or
I think
you're just
that's the essence of manifestation. You know,
Mhm.
you have to be vibrating high and feeling, you know, but just being on that vibration, being in those feelings. And the more and more you are, the more and more you stay there. To me, it's like it is the essence of manifestation. I mean, it's like, how could it not?
so true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely it's so interesting when you start to think about it, because it seems so simple, and yet it's something that we don't do consciously unless you know about it. So getting on that same like vibration and frequency of that which you desire, a lot of people don't even know about that,
Mhm.
right? So if you're wanting to call in more money or manifest, you have a certain goal or whatever, And if you're constantly thinking about not having achieved it yet or not having received it yet, you're not on the same vibration as having it, or on the same frequency as having it. So then how do you get to that same frequency? And maybe one of you guys can share how do you get to that frequency?
Yeah. Speaking of the having, that's a really good book, by the way. It's just called The Having. But it's being whatever vibration that you're going to be on. So, or that you want to be on. So my husband will often say, you know, if you sit in a barber shop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. Meaning, you know, meaning that if you're, you know, around negative energy, eventually, right, it's gonna it can cultivate a belief that now you're of that same vibration, right? Same goes for the opposite. So if you're around positive people, right, it's just natural. Like you're around smiling people, you can't help but like you want to smile, right? Or sometimes you even find yourself smiling, not even thinking of it, just because you're seeing that, right? So just it would become, excuse me, number one, become aware of what you want, whatever vibration you want to be on, right?
Mhm.
Do you want to move? Do you want to be the athlete? Do you want to buy the house? I don't know, whatever. And then be on that vibration. So what are you doing? What are you thinking? Right? We've kind of talked about some of these things. You know, and truly like diving into, and sometimes you can even borrow other people's, like, you know, if let's say you want to be an author, for instance, I don't know, right? So you can research these people that have already done these things, written these books, you know, whatever,
Mhm.
and then make it your own, right? So we don't want to get too stuck in focusing on what they're doing, right? Because we want it to be our own, but at least just borrow that kind of thing, right? Like, oh, okay, looks like they read a chapter every day, or they do this, or you know what I mean, whatever. To try to get at least get yourself into that space, and then you cultivate your own belief. And then so then you would just be in that vibration. Okay, so I'm already an author, right? So what am I doing? Am I writing every day? Am I, you know, I get inspired and then I write a whole chapter? I don't know, you know, whatever it may be. And then you work from there, because essentially you're kind of working backwards in a way, right? In the end, this is what I'm doing. So backwards from that would be I'm writing a book, I'm coming up with ideas, I'm brainstorming, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
I
who
just
are you
want to,
hanging around with too, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you're an author, are you going to hang around with other authors, or perhaps like join another group of, or like a writing circle, or do you know, things
Or
like that,
something.
where you're
Yeah.
immersing yourself around people that are doing, or, you know, doing the things that you want to do.
And
Sorry.
even if you're not, though, to add to that, even if you're not, because I don't really know a ton of authors, but like if you're on that vibration, they will
Come
align
out of
with
the
you.
woodwork.
Like I didn't know anybody that had written a book. And now, because I'm kind of on that vibe, everybody around me is like, I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book. And I'm like, where did you come from? Right. But I was on that vibration to bring them, you know, around to me. So go ahead, Leslie. Sorry.
It
when
just
the
goes to
student is
show,
ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
yeah, it just goes to show if you're, you know, thinking about something, you're vibrating it, and then those things start to come into your life.
Yeah.
Right? So you were saying that you weren't going to read and weren't going to write anything, and now you're thinking of it and whatever, and now people start to appear that you're like, oh, really? You're a writer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
was just
You have
thinking
to,
of, I love everything that Amber just said, but I was just thinking like, how can I raise my vibration just from like um, from a low level to a high level, then to get into be able to think properly as to what I desire and what they, you know, thinking of kind of my end scene, like Amber was talking about. So some things that I find that help raise my vibration if I'm low is things like dancing and singing. It always helps like to move, like to exercise. My exercise is like number one for me. Whenever I feel like a low vibration, I just go out, move my body, and I feel so much better. Playing with children can raise your vibration, you know, laughing, telling jokes, finding something funny to watch on TV, like all those things can help get you into a higher vibration.
It's true. What you're consuming is having a big effect on, on your energy and vibration too. So I love all of those suggestions that
Yeah,
you just gave.
that's why I don't watch like horror and gore and bad news. Like I don't like the way that it makes me feel. So I don't even engage in it whatsoever. Some people like that thrill and the way that it makes them feel. I don't. I like to watch comedies and sitcoms and laugh and just things that are light because I like that feeling better.
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle says, stay present. He said, the power is always in the now. And when you're in the now, anxiety and worry, all that can exist when you're in the presence of now.
Mhm. I like that.
Yeah. And just like, just like Leslie says, movement moves stagnant energy and, just changes your feelings and your vibrations because your feelings are, your vibrations. Acts of kindness, like I think in me in real estate. And sometimes I'll buy, it depends on the occasion. And like for, excuse me, Valentine's, I'll get some art candy and stop by some of my clients' places or houses and,
Oh,
just give them a little gift and, something unexpected. And it raises my vibration as much as it does theirs. Yeah, just little things. Decluttering, decluttering.
Oh,
You know, a room can, and I know I just did this in my bedroom, but I mean, and it does. It moves the energy. It moves the energy for new energy.
yeah.
So all that, stagnant stuff, the clutter that was there, old stagnant energy, got some room I can see now, and it just raises my vibration.
It's true. I love that suggestion. It's, that's why I love to do spring cleaning and just like purge and clean out all the things and all, the little stuff like, oh, I can repair that and
Hmm.
which I never repair. So throwing that stuff in the garbage, right? Like
Yeah.
getting rid of all of that old energy. I love that. You know how Jennine said it helps to shift that. It gives you space to expand, right? And
Hmm.
allow in more of what brings you joy rather than things that
Hmm.
are taking up space and cramping your style and your energy.
Hmm.
yeah. And that spring
Also
cleaning
want to,
makes you feel
yeah.
really good.
Oh yeah.
It does.
I also want to add that deep breathing calms your nerves,
Mhm.
especially when you're in a low vibrational place. And then you start the deep breathing, and then you move to something that raises your vibration, put on some music and, start dancing or whatever. And then the other thing that I thought about too was focus on faith and not fear, because our subconscious minds want to automatically take us to a place of fear because it's trying to protect us. We're the protector. And so if we override that thought of fear and focus on faith and that what we feel, we know that our desires will come to fruition, but you got to feel it. You got to be in that high vibration.
Yeah.
That just brought me to mind of thinking about daydreaming and thinking about the things
Hmm.
that I love. When I do that, I raise my vibration like instantly.
Yeah, but not just the image of that. You have to have that feeling too.
Yeah.
That it's you already thought it, so it already happened, and it can
Yeah.
happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, that whole visualization piece, like I think, we need to internalize it in a way that we feel like we're experiencing it so that it feels familiar. So we feel those same feelings that we would have when we do have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Those are such great suggestions on how to raise your vibration. And I'd like to add too, we've talked about this several times in the past, and I know this is one of Leslie's most favorite practices, which is gratitude.
I'm actually wearing my thankful shirt today.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh,
That was not planned, by the way. This was just, I
see,
was on the vibration of gratitude.
You
there
were.
you go.
We're usually always on the same vibe, which is so cool, right? Like it just goes to show that what you focus on, what you think about, right? Like it naturally attracts similar situations and people and relationships and all the things, which kind of leads me to my next question. So in what ways can understanding the law of vibration impact our relationships and the interactions we have with others?
As I always say, awareness, number one. So, because sometimes you can be switching your vibe based on somebody else that around you and you're not even aware, right? Let's say your spouse comes home, kids, whoever, whatever, and they're in a lower vibration. And I've done this before, and I immediately would like switch. And then I know I'm frustrated and I'm upset or whatever, right? But then once I would become aware that that was happening within me, right? Because I can't control them.
Mm-hmm.
Then now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna cultivate that feeling and the vibration and the emotion, regardless of what they, you know, um, so I keep doing my thing, right? So step one, be aware if you're changing yours, whichever way, right? And then go to what you want to feel, right? And then get in that lower vibration, whether that's the deep breathing, exercising, dancing, going for a walk, whatever. And then no, because like if it like for me, it was like a habit. Like every time one of my kids did come home and they were just like, and I would immediately switch to now I'm in that mood, and so I would notice it, right? Because that had become a habit for me. So now I'm like, okay, I want to create a habit in the other direction. Like I want to know that my vibe is going to be high regardless of however they're reacting to whatever. Right. So they come home and they're like, eh. And I'm like, cool, want to have a dance party? Like, let's, and they still may continue for a little while. But I'm gonna keep mine high. And then eventually they actually end up kind of, doing that little smirk on the side, like, all right. And then, and then their vibe is high too. So, and that could be with anybody, it doesn't have to just be with kids, but just staying on the vibration that you want to be on, regardless of the outside.
But how beautiful is that you want to elevate other people?
Yeah.
You don't need to go down to their level of vibration,
Yeah.
right? You give them tools to be able to raise their vibration and feel better, because in the end, we feel much better being happy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Than being down or angry. It's not a nice feeling. So that's beautiful, Amber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. That was perfectly said. I mean, because
Yeah.
again, I go back to what I said earlier, vibrations are palpable. You can feel them. And so, when her kids come into that room and she's, wanting to have a dance party, and she keeps that high vibration and keep it going, even if it's only for yourself,
Yeah.
and at least you're aware of what's going on. That's the beautiful part of that. And is, be aware of how you're feeling, where you are, and raise it. Whatever makes you happy, you know, whatever it is that makes you excited about doing something, do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful, because uh, the way that you vibrate is the way that people are going to respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
So think about
Mm-hmm.
how much power you have. So if your intent is, love and happiness, and that's what you're vibing, that's what you're going to get back.
Yeah.
Right? So powerful.
100%. I think you bring up such a good point too, right? Like, and it helps with communication as well, because coupled with awareness and the vibration that you are on and the words that you're speaking and how you're communicating and getting your point across to others, it's like it's so it's so impactful, right? Like how that awareness of what you're saying and how you're treating people is going to have an effect on how they respond to you, right?
Yeah.
And that's not rocket science, right? Like we've always heard like treat others the way you want to be treated, but it just goes to show how important your vibration is and your intent behind it. Because if if you go into a conversation and perhaps you're a little bit more emotionally charged, you know, you might go in with a defensive attitude, and therefore anything that they say, if you're already in that vibration, you could take it as, in that way, when really it's not actually the case. So, yeah, it definitely helps to improve a lot of relationships and communication, and just the type of people that you're attracting into your surroundings, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything that they wanted to add to that one?
I would say, and it goes along the same lines, like try for like a day, like waving or like smiling at everybody you see. I remember Steve Harvey, he talked about this. Somebody had commented like, oh, I look around, it's all frowns. He's like, have you tried just smiling? Like you may not get everybody smiling at you, but you're gonna get a hell of a lot more people smiling back at you than if you were frowning, waiting for somebody else to smile at you, kind of concept. So I started doing this. It just is like a practice, not only for myself and my own vibe, because you know what I mean? It is, there are some times where you're gonna, smile and be on a high vibe, and others are not, right? They're not gonna meet you, especially if it's, like a stranger situation. But I'll literally I mean, there's construction guys like just standing there with the stop sign, on their phone, and I'm like, right? And it's like no joke, like there's some people that are like, they're still frowning. They're like, I'm at work, this sucks, right? They're in that vibe, but like a lot of times they're like, oh, and then they wave back like, wait, because that probably hasn't happened to them all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the store or whatever, like I'm, smiling and so it definitely changes, like I said, first and foremost yours, right? And then also you'd be surprised at how much it also shifts other people too, to kind of break them out of that,
Yeah.
whatever's going on. So
I love that. I
practice.
love that, Amber. And I just know like when I smile, I automatically feel so much better. And I'll often
Yeah.
say to
Mhm.
myself, just smile,
Yeah.
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah,
And
if
then
nothing else, you raise your own vibration. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And hopefully other people,
Exactly.
but if they don't, oh well.
so
Like,
simple.
yeah.
My husband has a laugh, and he laughs all the time, but he has a laugh that is so contagious. And he'll be laughing at something, and sometimes he speaks really fast. And it's like, and he'll just start laughing, laughing, laughing. And then I'm in stitches laughing. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
what am I laughing at? What am I laughing about?
It's the best.
Exactly. It's just contagious. And it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, it's fun though. I love it.
It's so true. And there's something so powerful in a smile. Like there's chemical reactions that happen. I'm not super scientific in that area, so you'd have to look it up. But I know that some people, if they're finding it hard to smile, would actually, it's like it's an exercise. People put a pencil like in between, and it just like makes you like, even the motion of doing that elevates your vibration, which is kind of cool. So next time you need a little extra extra help in that department, yeah, there you
Put a
go.
pencil in
Right?
it.
There you go. How
Yeah.
do we?
And part of it is just feeling silly doing it. You kind of make yourself laugh, right? So
Yeah, that was a good one.
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I love that. And I love how, just being aware of our vibration can really help improve our relationships as well. Like there's so many different ways our vibration has an effect on everything in our life. So how can we use the law of vibration to align ourselves with our desires and goals?
I think all the things that we said before,
Mhm.
I mean, just doing all the things that we love. Our vibration is bound to raise.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, we talked about it, right? Like getting clear on what we desire and then visualizing what it is that we desire and then putting ourselves on that same frequency and vibration as having that desire.
Absolutely.
We definitely laid out a lot of really good points.
Yeah.
I
What
think
other tools can we use? Like, thinking about like affirmations. Like, do you guys use affirmations to help raise your vibration and help you with your goals?
absolutely. I do use, I talk to myself a lot to tell myself, if I have a thought that I don't like, to say, no, 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 I that's not the thought, that I don't believe that, or whatever it might be. Um, and so then I'll get into I am this, or I believe that. And I find that that really does help. It raises my vibration, and it, instead of going down, because it's always that negative thought that's bringing down my vibration. It's the ego that's saying you can't do this, or you can't do that, or that's not this is the belief you have, not the belief that you want, right? And so when I stop myself, I find that I do affirmations and say, to get me to that vibration that I want to be on. So my words are really important too, to bring my vibration up. So it's not just thinking about it and visualizing it to get onto that frequency. It's also the words, because words are very powerful as well, right? And what we say to
Yeah.
ourselves and say to others, um, it's a vibration as well. And it can have a low vibration and a high vibration, certain words.
Yeah, just the other day, a friend and I were together, and I said, "Oh, I always get the good parking spaces." And I'm like, high vibing, and I always get the good parking spaces. We pull in right up front. I
There
was
you
like,
go.
okay. So I mean, it's stuff like that. It's little stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Because
so true.
my mind was believing it. I was, excited about it, and I didn't have any resistance to it, and there it was.
Yeah,
Divine timing.
indeed. Indeed. And I love what you guys are saying, right? Like, you know, you guys aren't thinking about this once in a day and then just being like, oh, I had my positive thought for today.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Right? Like, as you can see, and like, I hope the viewers understand, is that this is like a constant, this becomes a lifestyle, right? Like this awareness, this paying attention, this, correcting of our vibration, right? Like, and just because you have some negative feelings doesn't mean that it's bad and you're not going to get what you want. It just means that there's something there that you need to address, right? And it's okay to have, lower days, and just knowing that you can get yourself out of there so that you're not staying there, right?
And I would
I,
add too.
I have a hard time with low days. As much as everybody says have a low day, I do absolutely everything to raise my vibration. Yes, I accept the fact that I feel low today, and sometimes I have no idea why,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then it's like, okay, I'm going to the gym. That usually solves it, right? go outside, pet the cats, do all those things that we suggested. And then I feel much better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely having those tools in your arsenal, right? Like I think about having a tool belt and it's like,
Yeah.
whoo, like which one am I pulling
Yeah.
out now?
Which one today?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is good, right? Like, and I mean, they're especially good when you actually use them and put them into practice, right? But
Well, because
it's
you actually have a choice, like Amber said earlier, we have this choice of what vibration we decide that we're going to be on.
yeah,
So why not choose the one that you like?
yeah.
You
Which
don't need
train
to
are you
stay.
getting on?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I would say too, like when you've, because in the beginning, when you first become aware of your thoughts, you're like, well, for me, I'm like, well, crap, I don't know what raises my vibration, right? Because you're unaware of like the differences and everything like that. So then once you become aware of like, oh, okay, cool, like I went to the gym, I feel amazing now, right? For less
Yeah.
weeks, right? I danced, I whatever, what hummed, I don't, whatever it is, then getting in that habit. So for instance, like I've been lately practicing qigong, right? I've been doing this and I've noticed since I because it also is a combination of exercise but also like breath work and meditation, all stuff like that. So once I implemented those, I'm like, man, I feel amazing. So instead of like waiting for what I mean, me to be upset or sad or like whatever it is, I just do that stuff every morning, right? Like every morning I wake up and I do that, right? My meditation, like whatever it may be, like get in the habit of doing that however that's the time frame or whatever. So since I do that every morning, right, get in the habit of making that the new habit, because then the low vibration will be less and less. Are you going to have those days or those times? Of course, but it's going to happen less and less, right? Because you've created that new habit of of the vibration you want to be in. Because sometimes some people, and this is my old identity, but like low vibe was like, that was just me. Like it was all the time. It was right. So since I shifted, it would come back like fairly often, every few days or so, because I was breaking the habit, right? Of like that old pattern of like, well, this is just how we feel. So the more and more that I was doing the things that put me in that vibration, the less and less the low days actually happened. So you're gonna have moments, what I mean, somebody smashes in my car or something, I'm gonna have, these times, but it's not gonna be a habit of that versus it, what I mean, it happens on occasion.
I love
love
that,
that.
setting the intent for the day, Amber.
Yes,
By
yes.
doing something that raises your vibration. Because before you even said that, I thought about how people often wake up in the morning and they're not happy, right? Or they'll
Yeah.
often say, oh, I'm not a morning person, and that gives them the excuse to be grumpy. Well, you have a choice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They
if you
start
don't,
looking at the news and start looking at Facebook and start looking at all these other people's negative stuff or whatever, or taking on other people's persona instead of building yourself up first.
Yeah.
yes,
And you got to build yourself up first, and then if you want to look at all that stuff, yeah, but you're already vibing high. And
Yeah.
then more than likely, if there's something that you start looking at, you're just going to kind of reject that because you are aware you don't want to be in that vibration. But
yeah,
if you start out there in the mornings, then you're going to go with it all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
set
I,
my intention. I do not look at my phone for an hour after I wake up. Like
yeah.
nothing. No emails, no
Yeah.
messages, no, literally nothing for an hour. I get into my space and everything first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I start in, because then that sets the tone for the whole day.
it
Absolutely.
Yeah.
certainly does. Such a good thing you brought up, Amber.
Yeah, very much so. And something else you touched on, which I think is super super important, is you mentioned what raises your vibration,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Like just because one practice might raise somebody else's vibration doesn't mean that it'll necessarily resonate with you. And sometimes certain things resonate one day and they don't
Yeah.
resonate the next.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, playing around with it and just seeing what feels good. Because if you're doing a practice just to raise your vibration, but you're not feeling it. And you're like, this is a chore, you know, I don't like it, whatever, it's not going to raise your vibration. So you need to pick the things that really, really resonate
You
and feel
absolutely
for you.
love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes we try things, like I have people all the time, oh, watch this video, try this, do this, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And I'll try, you know, if they resonate with me. Like I used to do yoga, you know, I was into doing yoga, and then I kind of stopped. And then Qigong had come upon my awareness like quite a few times from different people. And I'm like, all right, what is this all about? Right. Because I just wasn't, and I actually did it for a while and I wasn't feeling anything because I don't want to say I wasn't doing it right, but like I wasn't feeling it, like you said. I was just kind of like, all right, you know. And then I'm like, I noticed that he's breathing differently, and he'll literally be like in, out, right the way. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it exactly how he's, you know, I just watched a YouTube video, and I'm like, oh my God, like it changed everything, right? Because I was actually feeling it instead of going through the motions to do it, and that makes, you know, the difference as well, too.
I'll share
Yeah.
some things that make me really happy. In the mornings, having my morning cup of coffee raises my vibration. I'm so happy to have that cup of coffee in the mornings. Lunchtime, I like to have a great salad. Oh, that raises my vibration. This is a great salad. In the evenings, I want to have a glass of wine. You know, I'm vibing high all day.
There you go. There you go. All right.
I
Little
love
things,
that.
little things.
Yep.
Yeah. Small pleasures, right? Like those things that
Yeah, but
really
it's
bring
what
you
makes you
joy.
happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's what makes you happy. So
absolutely.
you got to keep reaching for it. You got to keep practicing. You got to keep doing it
Mm.
over and over again. And you have to be, as Amber said, mindful of it, you know,
Yeah.
aware. And it
Yes.
is, you know, it's not, it doesn't come instantly. You have to, when you're first starting out, it's something that you do have to practice.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
a
And then it
continuous.
will, yes, then our brains will start, you know, mapping new roads, and it'll become automatic. But most of the stuff that we do now is in our subconscious minds, and we just do it unaware, you know, like grabbing our phones when we first wake up in the morning. But when you are aware and you find something that really makes you happy, go for that.
Definitely. And keep doing
Absolutely.
it.
And
Yeah,
keep
and keep
doing
doing
it.
it.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you
And it
so
changes.
much.
It changes.
Yeah, it certainly does. Thank you so much, ladies, for all of these beautiful gold nuggets. I think this episode is jam-packed with so much really good practical information. And I know our viewers have gotten a lot out of it. So I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Million Gold Nuggets podcast. And if you got value out of this episode or think someone could benefit from it, please hit the share button and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until we meet again, remember, the journey to fulfillment is all about collecting those precious gold nuggets. See ya.
Bye.